How's it going, everybody? So in this video, I'm going to be explaining the fight night experience as a professional boxer. What you have to do on fight night, the routine, how it feels, what the experiences are like, what you have to go through, the walkouts, weighing in, rehydrating, getting in the ring, being announced the winner, taking the shots, the nerves, all of that. Okay, so I'm going to go from the very start, from the weigh-in day, even before the weigh-in day, when we're cutting a little bit of weight and giving you an insight as to how it feels, basically an insight into the experience of a professional boxer on fight night. So firstly, the day of the weigh-in, which is typically when you first start boxing. If you're on the small hall scene, you're weighing on the same day. Now that's pretty tough because there's been times where I've had to get down to the welterweight limit, which is 66.7 kilograms. And I mean, right now, just physically, I'm around 76 kilos. So to get down and stay to that weight on fight day isn't easy, but I've done it a few times. And so the same day weigh-in, you get to the venue roughly at around 1 o'clock, you weigh in. Once you weigh in, you have to then gather all the money from the tickets that you've accumulated, all of the tickets you've sold, and then you pay the promoter all of the fees that need to be paid. So you're paying your opponent. If you're fighting a journeyman, you're paying the promoter, you're paying the house. And then once your fight's done, you kind of split the rest with your coaches, whatever you have left. So once that's done, you've weighed in, you've made weight, hopefully. If you haven't made weight, then you might get fined. So make sure you reach the agreed weight limit. The first thing you need to do is rehydrate, because if you're fighting on the same day, then you need to rehydrate quickly because you're going to be in the ring in about 3-4 hours. So what we would normally do if we're boxing at York Hall, we go somewhere local, we go to a Nando's or to the local cafe. Now, you have to bear in mind as well, you're pretty nervous on fight night, so eating isn't the easiest thing and you're really hungry. So it's a bit of a weird one. So normally I just get like some scrambled eggs, toast, maybe a bit of bacon, chuck a bit of salt in there and just get the fluids back in my body. I have a water, a Lucozade. So you refuel, you rehydrate, and then if you're fighting on the same day, you go and you warm up. Now, before I get to the warm up, let me tell you about the day before weigh-in as well, because I've done this. So day before weigh-in is slightly different. You can normally cut a bit more weight because you've got 24 hours to rehydrate. So you'll arrive to the weigh-in venue and you'll wait around. Your name will be called up and you have to jump on the scales. You have to weigh in and then you have to do the stare down with the opponent, which, if I'm being honest with you, I always thought was a bit weird. And then the first thing you're really thinking about is, I just want to fuel up. And if you've done a day before weigh-in, you've probably cut quite a bit of weight. So you get your nutrients back in, you get your electrolytes in. So you make sure you're not just drinking loads of water. You need to get the salt back in your body if you've dehydrated yourself, and you eat. Now, the big difference here is you can put on about 5 to 6 kilos overnight, especially if you cut a lot of water weight out. So you can be a lot bigger the next day from day before weigh-in. Although I wouldn't recommend it because you can also be sluggish and big weight cuts can drain you for a long period of time. So you do that. The next day, you just chill out, you eat, and you fill yourself up, you fuel yourself back on. And then you get the morning of the fight, the butterflies kick in, you're a bit like, oh, you've got a big fight tonight. It's a bit of a weird one. It doesn't really feel so real. You don't really wake up. I never personally woke up and felt like, you know, right, let's go. I always just, it was another normal day and it's like, oh yeah, I've got that big fight tonight. You will basically just chill out roughly. If you've weighed in the day before, you need to get there a couple of hours before you're going to fight. Now, I've been the main event in my fight against Lewis Isaacs. I've also been the first on the card when I boxed at the O2 Arena. So you will get to the event a couple of hours early, just considering where you're on the card. You will sort all the ticket stuff out if needs be. Not all cards require that. And then you go to the locker room. Now, you will normally just wait around for a couple of hours. So just chuck music in. When I boxed Isaacs, I was just sitting in the dressing room, similarly to my last fight at the O2. And you're just waiting for a couple of hours. And to be honest with you, I always felt quite relaxed. You know what you're going to do. The nerves are there. You do have this massive weight in your chest, but you just have to get on with it. You're just trying to... I always used to think in 6 hours, this will be over. In 5 hours, this will be over. And the closer it came, the closer it would be over, which was a nice thought for me. Probably about, I don't know, 90 minutes before a fight, I'd say you'd wrap your hands. Your coach would wrap your hands. So you get the big wraps on. You got the tape, the gauze, the bandages, and you put that over each hand. And that will probably take about half an hour. I start getting twitchy because then the nerves start kicking in. Now, you do feel very nervous on fight night. I've done a video all about nerves before a fight, so make sure you check that out. And yeah, you start to get a bit fidgety. You're sort of you know, doing all of this. Once your hands are bandaged, you kind of just chill out again for a little while. You don't want to burn yourself out. Probably about half an hour to 40 minutes before a fight, you'll start to loosen up. Just do some light, intense exercises, nothing crazy, just loosening up. And then probably about half an hour to 25 minutes before a fight, you will start getting your gloves on. Now, this is the big part. Obviously, it's very psychological, boxing. Once the gloves are on, they're lace gloves and they are taped up. So make sure you have a wee or go to the toilet before the gloves go on, because once they're on, they're not coming off. Once your gloves are on, you'll start warming up. Now, you might feel very heavy here. You're hitting the pads, the nerves are kicking in. You don't feel sharp necessarily, but you also feel really powerful and strong because you are sharp. And you will do a couple of rounds on the pads. I always had a dry mouth, so I would try and just do 20 to 30 seconds. I did feel very nervous before quite a lot of my fights. And you would just keep yourself sharp, moving, boom, boom, boom. Your coach will be throwing punches and it feel like you're not even making a miss. You feel like your reflexes are gone, but that's all psychological. You are sharp. If you've done the work, you will be sharp. And yeah, closer and closer and closer. You'll start hearing your opponent maybe if they're close to you next door warming up, smashing the pads. I had that quite a few times. And yeah, then you get yourself really ready. I used to go cold. Not that that's intimidating, but I used to go like cold and just, you know, my serious face would come on and the serious side would come out. And then you'll be called to the ring and you'll start hearing the boom, 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 and start hearing people, especially if it's a main event, you start hearing people getting excited. And they normally play a bit of music before, so you'll start to feel that anticipation and you're just about to walk into the ring. So there's not much going on. This is a tense part because it's the part just before you go. When you're out to the ring walk, it's slightly different. But this part, you're on your own. You're alone with your thoughts. You got the entire room looking at you just standing there. So you just got to stay chilled. You got to zone out, but you have to also stay focused. Focus on the ring. I would always just look at the ring. That's my safe place. I'm not used to just walking in front of a couple of thousand people, like a couple of hundred people. That's not my thing. But in the ring, that's where I'm safe. So just focus on that on the ring walk and try not to fall over. Once you get through the ropes, that's the last obstacle. Once you're in, you're in. And it's just what you do every day there, but you have to get yourself in. I always found it a bit mentally challenging to get through the ropes. I never froze. I always went through, but you kind of think, oh man, this is my last chance to go back. But you would just go through, and once you're in, you're in. You get announced and you're nervous. You're still nervous ever so slightly, but you're just sort of, you know, you're loose. And then you go to the center of the ring with your opponent. The referee will give you the instructions. It's weird, this one, because your opponent's right there. It's real now. It's physical. That person that's been on your mind for a few months is there. And I used to think, right, let's go. That was just my mindset. We're here now. Let's do this. And then you touch gloves and you walk back to the ring. You're still kind of in your own motion. Like, you're still within your own head. You know, things are still pretty normal. And then the bell goes. And then you just go out. Now, I always used to felt when I first started, it would take me about 30 seconds to get into it. Maybe you put too much effort into shots and then you land your first shot and then the nerves are just gone. You're completely in the moment there. Sometimes even when I'm fighting, you still have the dry mouth from the nerves before, but you're just working. When you train so much and you spar so much and you box so much, that's just normal for you. You zone out from the people around the crowd. You are aware that they're there. You do soak up the atmosphere and it does get you going. And a weird thing as well is when you are in the ring, you will just hear certain people's voices. And it might just be a random guy. It might be like your granddad's friend that you haven't seen in years, but you'll just notice that voice. It's really weird, but you can still hear everything else, but that's just the one you pick out. Like I say, when you've trained so much, it's just instinctive. You don't really have to think about the fight, but you're fully devoted to the fight. You're not in their instance for saying, right, I'm going to throw a jab and a right hand and a left hook. That just ticks subconsciously. You are still aware of everything around you, but you're zoned on your opponent. And yeah, you kind of just flow through the fight. If you start feeling tired, I mean, sometimes you'll feel exhausted if the nerves have got to you. I always felt on fight night, you would feel more tired just because the nerves take the energy out of you. And then you're just going through the motions. As the rounds go on, you sit in the corner, you feel your lungs. Now, I always felt more tired than I knew I was, but I was very experienced, so I knew I wasn't tired. So you just push yourself through it. It takes a lot of determination to do that. But even though you feel exhausted, a lot of that's psychological when you're in the fight. and you just keep pushing. Just keep on going and just stay sharp. Your body will get you through it. And you get towards the end of the fight and you're just waiting for that final bell. It is like a godsend when that final bell comes. You're like, come on, come on. And the final bell rings and it's just the best feeling ever. Win or lose. I didn't like losing. I did lose quite a few times in the amateurs. I lost about 8 or 9 fights. But you're just relieved. It's a massive sense of relief. If you win, you feel amazing. You walk to the judge, to the referee. The judges will count up the scores. And if you win, it's amazing. If you lose, that's a pretty horrible feeling, I'm not going to lie. And then you get out the ring and you just feel like you could do it all again. It's a really strange feeling. And there's been times where you'll normally, a professional boxer will then have to go and get checked by the doctor. They will ask you certain things like, who's the Prime Minister? You know, what day is it today? And, you know, I've seen some boxers give some pretty ridiculous answers. Sometimes, for instance, you will have to go and get your cuts stitched if you've had cuts. Like I've had cuts here and here in fights with bruises, and then it will get signed off. And to be honest with you, I was always pretty tired after fights. You know, you're pretty vroom. It's a big drop after all of that adrenaline you spent all day thinking about. And you just go and celebrate. And that is basically the fight night experience. The roller coaster of emotions. It's up, 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 down, and then down, and then up. And then the next day, you'll normally get loads of messages come through. And it is a nice feeling for a couple of days. And then it just kind of peters off and the world goes back to normal. So, yeah, that's the fight night experience from me. Hopefully, you gain something from that. It's pretty fascinating. If you're not a boxer and you feel like you want to do the fight night experience, I would definitely recommend it. It is a mad buzz. The fight night experience is one of the maddest buzzes ever. So thanks again for watching the video. Let me know in the comments if there's any other content that you would like. Please do like, subscribe and share the video. I do appreciate all the support and thank you again.